Hi everyone. I'm going to start on chapter 15, which is nutrients and their functions. And this will be our topic for a couple of weeks. So let's take a look at some of the slides and see if we can learn something about nutrition. So this picture just shows a typical field, probably not in California, but somewhere in the Midwest, of roughage feeds. And so a roughage is a feed for livestock that's high in fiber or cellulose, and typically going to be fed to farm animals like cows, sheep, and goats, and those are considered to be our ruminant animals. Here's another picture of something you might see right here in California. This is a silage pit filled with silage. It might look like dirt to you, but it's not. So silage oftentimes comes from corn. We grow a lot of corn silage to feed dairy cows. And so the silage is chopped into small chunks and then it's packed into the silage pit. The reason why it's packed into the pit and covered with plastic and then those tires is because we want that silage to ferment, and the fermentation prevents rotting and makes the feed very palatable for dairy cows. So that is another example of a roughage feed, and that would be corn silage, and we can make silage out of other things, but a lot of times we do corn around here. This is a good picture of ruminant animals grazing on a lush green pasture. And the beauty of the ruminant animal is that they can take this highly unpalatable food to us. I can't see us going out here and eating the grass. And they can turn it into high quality protein in the form of meat and milk. So again, pasture would be another good example of a roughage feed. And then this picture is a picture of some sheep grazing on a grain residue field. So it doesn't look very tasty to you and I, but sheep, because of the way their mouth is, they have a split lip, and goats, and they can get right down to the ground and they can really pick up small, fine seeds, as well as the leaves and leftover plant parts. And sheep can actually get fat on this type of grain residue. So there might be some grain out here, but there's a lot of plant material that would be considered to be roughage. So this is a picture called proximate analysis. And basically proximate analysis is just kind of how feed is broken down to do an analysis in terms of what nutrients are in the feed. So I'll just walk you through it. So if we take a feed sample, and we would do this in a lab to see what ingredients or what nutrients are in the feed. So we take the feed, the first thing we do is dry it, and we do by weight. And whatever's missing after we dry it is moisture. And then we have the dry matter. And the dry matter is the part that you eat that provides nutrients. And then we actually do another chemical analysis, which kind of involves burning the feed. And whatever's left in that burnt little pile is a little pile of ash. And that ash is where all the minerals are. So the ash is the mineral content of the feed. And then if you were to take that sample again, so we know that's 5% ash, the residual from that 88% is the organic matter. Now, organic doesn't mean organically grown. It means from the earth. It means natural. So that's what organic means when we're talking about feed ingredients. So it's not, antibiotic free. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about what's left of the feed that isn't ash or water. And then we can break that down using another chemical test done in the lab, and we can extract the protein. And so protein is one of the nutrients you're familiar with. So this feed sample, which I think they said just a feed, and then they said similar to wheat, has about a 13% protein level in it. So that is a nutrient we can extract. And then what's left is called non-nitrogenous matter. And it's called non-nitrogenous because proteins contain nitrogen. So this residue doesn't contain nitrogen. It contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And so when we evaluate that, we can extract the fat. And so fat is another nutrient. And then what's left is carbohydrates. And then carbohydrates can be broken down into the two big categories, which are what we call simple carbohydrates, which is sugars, and that's the nitrogen-free extract. And then the other type of carbohydrate, which you and I can't digest very well, is cellulose or crude fiber. So that's what's meant by a proximate analysis. And that's how we get the proximate guaranteed analysis on a feed tag. And you're going to see that as one of your homework assignments. So if we look at this in a little more detail, we can see that ash or minerals can be broken into two categories. Macro minerals are minerals you need a lot of. Micro minerals are minerals you just need a tiny bit of. And micro minerals typically, they're very essential for certain types of body functions, but you need them in very small quantities. And if you have too much of them, they can actually cause toxicities. And then if we look at that organic compound component of the feed that's left after we extract the ash, it's made up of the nitrogenous, which is basically the protein-containing ingredients, the fats, and the carbohydrates. So those are the nutrients we're always familiar with. So protein can be broken down into essential and non-essential amino acids, and then non-protein nitrogen, which is a very small component and isn't a big component of most types of feeds. And then our fats can be simple fatty acids, or they can be compound fats, or they can be pseudo fats, which are actually the fat soluble vitamins. And then we can take carbohydrates and we can break them into the two that I said, the simple and the complex, which is crude fiber, which is hard to digest. And then we have the nitrogen-free extract, which is monosaccharides, which is simple sugars like sugar, and polysaccharides, which are also easy to digest, and that's what most grains are, starches. And then we also have the water-soluble vitamins. Okay, so another thing that we have to be aware of is how we take and identify the energy that's in a feed. So I think this is really interesting because it makes you realize what a small amount of feed is actually used by an animal. So let's just say this was a cow. So a cow's eating food. That food that she takes in her mouth is full of gross energy. Not gross like ooh, gross, just a lot of energy. Gross, it's a big amount. And some of that energy is lost because she poops it out. She doesn't use all the energy in her feed. Some of it is passed through and just ends up in the manure. So that is some energy that's lost from her feed. So if we take out the manure component, then what we have is digestible energy, right? If it's not going out the back end, it must be being used by the body. So some of that energy is lost in urine and gases, okay? So we still have some body functions going on. And gases, cows have a lot of flatulence. They pass a lot of gas, and that can be carbon dioxide or it can be methane. So that's some energy lost there. If we go to the next stage, after we take the urine and the gases, what energy leaves in that form, then we have the metabolizable energy. And now we're getting down to the energy your body can really use. Well, your cells need energy, and that's what metabolizable energy is used for. So some of that energy is used by your cells in order to keep your cells alive. And that energy is lost in the form of heat. So all living mammals have, a body temperature that's pretty high, and that requires energy. And that is a big drain. If an animal, if it's cold, it's going to burn more energy, and you're going to lose more of your feed ingredients because they're burning their body energy, their calories. And then what's left after heat is lost is net energy. And look at that, how small that box is, because that's the energy that's left for maintenance, maintaining your body, not growing, just maintaining your body, and energy left for production. So think how much a dairy cow has to eat in order to produce 8 or 10 gallons of milk a day. So she has to have all that feed, some of which is pooped out, some of which is lost in urine and gases, some of which is just lost in her body heat, some of it is used to maintain her body and her cells, and what is left over can be used for production. So if that doesn't give you an idea of how important nutrition is, I don't know what would. Okay, we'll just pass right through this slide. This is talking about the same kind of thing, but with a laying hen and we're looking at the uses of calories in the feed. That picture's in your book. So the nutrient classification of feed, we have 6 categories of nutrients. And you probably know these: protein, carbohydrates, lipids or fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. Proteins are made of amino acids. Think of a protein molecule as a really big molecule, and the amino acids are like small chunks. You can think of a protein as like a train, and the amino acids are the rail cars, the railroad cars that make the train one long train. So amino acids and proteins are nitrogen containing. They are the only nutrient that contains nitrogen, and that's really important for a lot of reasons. You might remember, if you have taken plant science or if you're a gardener, that nitrogen is also really essential for plants, right? So nitrogen is an essential element. It's on the periodic chart of elements. It's the most common gas in the atmosphere, but it's found in protein, and it's also a nutrient that plants need. So we have on a feed label, you're going to see the word crude protein. So crude protein is just the amount of protein in the feed as it relates to the amount of nitrogen. So to figure out crude protein, we take the amount of nitrogen, multiply it times 6.25. Don't worry, you're not going to have to do that. So when we go back to those amino acids, which are what make up protein, you have 2 categories of amino acids. You have essential amino acids that must be provided in the diet, and you have non-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are essential for you to live. If those amino acids are not in your diet, then you will die. And, most people don't die from lack of amino acids because, heaven knows humans eat a very wide variety of foods. The essential amino acids are on a table in your book, and you can look through that. It's interesting because cats cats are the ultimate carnivores. They do not need anything but meat in their diet, and they have an essential amino acid. I believe it's taurine. I should have looked that up before I taught this class. But if that's not provided in their diet, they can die from basically malnutrition. And then you have non-essential amino acids. Non-essential amino acids can be synthesized or made in the gut. So they can be made in your intestine. They can be made in the animals. If it's a ruminant, it can be made in the rumen or the cecum if it's a horse. So here's your essential amino acids. Oh yeah. So taurine is the amino acid that's required by cats. I know a lot of you are vet tech students, so you probably already knew that. Tryptophan might sound familiar. That's the amino acid that makes you really sleepy after you eat turkey. Anyway, Thanksgiving. So carbohydrates are the next category after proteins. Carbohydrates are energy. Carbohydrates are the product of plant photosynthesis. Remember, photosynthesis is the origin of all of our food. If it weren't for the sun, carbon dioxide, and the amazing molecule of chlorophyll, there would be no food on Earth. So give that some thought. So the basic molecule that plants manufacture is sugar, but the plants can transform that sugar into complex carbohydrates like starches, or they can keep it simple, like an apple is sweet. It has sugar in it, monosaccharides. And then the fiber in the apple is cellulose, which is a complex carbohydrate. So feeds vary in carbohydrate type. Cereal grains like corn, wheat, barley, they're high in starch. Those are very digestible, and those are the feeds we're going to feed to our monogastrics, which are our single-chambered stomach animals like chickens and pigs. The complex carbohydrate of cellulose is very high in fiber, and really ruminants and the hindgut fermenters, which are horses, rabbits, and guinea pigs, can consume this. Okay, and then last but not least are lipids. Lipids, another word for lipids, are fats. Lipids are a very energy-dense nutrient, and the basic structure of a lipid is a triglyceride. So you have 2 categories of lipids, saturated of fatty acids, saturated and unsaturated. I think I'm going to have to stop there because we're going to have to start on the new slide presentation. So I'm going to stop right there.